Good morning. Danny's got us ready to go. I wore a white shirt to church this morning, and I was sitting in my office chair, and I had a can of Coke, and I leaned back to drink it, and the chair just went. The load exceeded the limit. Well, I think when we go to get another chair, I'm gonna make sure that the weight limit's 350, because apparently 225 and 250 is collapsible under my girth. All right, it's good to be here with y'all. Good to be able to laugh about our silliness. BB, how's the family? Good, good. Caroline, is Elizabeth home?
And we have made it through how many days? And we have can laugh about stuff. She still has hair.
She does have hair.
She won't lose it.
Oh, Caroline still has hair.
We're going to install I told Jay, like a salt lick they have for cows, ours is going to be Xanax, and we're going to have it in the house.
Uh-huh.
If you need a lick someday, you just come by.
That's good. That's good. I like that. We need to put about 4 of those around the church premises. And we need to make it kind of like communion. This is the body and the bread, and you need Jesus. And everybody, make it mandatory for everybody. I went and saw her the morning she was getting ready to leave, and she was sitting putting her makeup on when I came in the door, and I leaned over to hug her, and I just saw her from behind, and I hugged her surgical site, and I hope it didn't hurt her. It didn't bother me, but it just, they had shaved her head, and you could feel the little pricklies and stuff, and I was like, oh. She's like, it's okay. So anyway.
I don't know if she gets borderline on a manic, but when she gets on it, you can hear all over the house, and you can even hear when you're outside.
Yeah.
So I kind of try to walk down a little ways and further away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yelling to tell me what I need to do, and that's okay because you're sick, and one day I'll be old, and that will be Joe only because I'm old, and so I'm thinking about that.
God let me go deaf gradually.
Yeah. Right. Well, we're going to get to our discussion on college this morning, and I prepared y'all a couple of weeks ago and said that when we do this, we'll just sort of bounce ideas off of one another, because I personally don't believe that there's any hard and fast rules with regards to college, and I'll tell you why. I graduated high school with no intent to go to college immediately. I wanted to work for a period of time, figure out what I wanted to do, and then make my plans to go to school. Well, I had an uncle that thought that if I did that, it would be the most terrible thing in the world. And so he called my parents and said, if Lamar will go to school, I'll pay for it. He can pay me back when he gets out of school. Back then, you could go to USCS for $1,500 a semester. So I took Uncle Luke's $1,500, went to school, and I no sooner got started than I didn't want to be there. And I mean, I didn't want to be there from the get-go. I just didn't want to tell Mom and Dad no, didn't want to tell Uncle Luke no, and so I stepped into a situation I should have never stepped into. The long and short of that is I ended up flunking out, withdrawing, failing second semester, and it wasn't until maybe 21 until I went back to college. So, I went an unconventional route, and I didn't go by the rules. And so I know, maybe college is not in the works for your child. Don't stress that. That would be my encouragement. Maybe, maybe your plans for your child is it's mandatory. But again, it's your house, it's your home. You can do what you want to. Where will they go to college? Must they go to Clemson or University of South Carolina or Georgia Tech? Or can they go to USC Upstate? Or can they go to Spartanburg Community College? Can they go somewhere where they can maximize the finances, get a good education, and not be in debt? Paula and I, by the time we got out of college, I don't remember exactly what our student loans were, but until we got them paid off, we joked with people and said most people that get married start out with a mortgage. We started out with a student loan. So there's all of those kinds of things. So I also worked, Paula and I worked all the way through college. There wasn't a time from the time I started college until the time I finished seminary that I didn't have a job while I was getting my education. When I was at at Charleston Southern and at the church in Portside, my first ministry position, we met a family who felt like that school was their daughter's job. And so they fully funded her education, gave her spending money, gave her a car, paid her insurance, paid her gas. Her responsibility was to do the grades. Anything wrong with that? Only if you want to mind somebody else's business. That was that man's money, and that was his wife, and that was his daughter, and he could do what he wanted to with it. So I don't think there are hard and fast rules. I think there are principles. I think grades are highly important. The better your children's grades are, the easier the path will be. I think playing the system is important. BB got a black daughter. Guess what? In the world in which we live in, there are benefits to being a double minority. Female, African American. Take advantage of it. Lindsay, she's a white female. There are advantages that there's going to be advantages that she can have that Wesley won't get, because white boys with bad grades just don't have a whole lot of advantages. I can testify to that. So, hey, it's a system, it's real, and so today I just wanted to, let's discuss it. And I'm intentionally starting with Sonia because she may be the one who has been the closest to this experience. Kelsey finished in May with her degree, went to Clemson. She worked while she was in college.
3 years.
Mom and Dad paid some while she was in college.
A whole lot. She worked to pay for gas and food.
Okay.
Paid for everything else.
And y'all paid for the education. Now, is that something that's a loan situation, or were y'all able to pay it as you?
Combination. We
Okay.
had some student loans, we had some scholarship money, and we had out of pocket.
Okay. How did the scholarship work out?
She lost her scholarship the first year,
Okay.
which is typical because they first time away from mom and dad, and nobody tell them what to do and stay on track, and she'll admit to that.
Yeah.
And so the rest of it was out of pocket and student loans.
Right. Now, what grade point average causes you to lose? Where do you fall below the ability to keep your
They
money?
keep a 3.5 or a 3.0.
Okay.
We fell below that.
So there again, adults who may be headed in that direction, grades are not only important for getting there, they are important for easing the financial burden while you're there. But Sonia made a great point. The majority of kids lose their scholarships. Education money is great. The lottery, whether you want to make a moral argument or not, the lottery is great. It does fund education.
I bet there's nobody that doesn't believe in it that won't take it for their kids, though.
Well, that's true. But the problem is our kids, once they get to college, they don't take advantage by keeping their nose to the grindstone. And I didn't get scholarship money, but I mean, I might as well have. My uncle was, you know, hey, you go, I'll pay you back. Well, I flunked out second semester. So, you know, I mean, it's a reality, and it's an issue. Bibi, did your daughter go to college? Where did she go? Okay. Okay. Now, how did your daughters get through the college, or how did you and your daughters get through the college finances? Okay. Right. But she still, it being a scholarship, she had to keep her grades up. And she did. Okay. Okay. So Robin got to go and had some scholarship money, and then she lost some scholarship money. Okay. Okay. Rodney, did your girls go to school? At R.D. Anderson. She's cosmetologist. Okay. Okay. So we're, well, that's a good point. You know, yeah, that's a very good point. I'm going to say this, and this is my opinion, I'm sticking to it, and until I'm proven wrong, I'm not going to change it. I do not believe that there is anything in public education that prepares our kids for college. Because you go from a complete and total parental involvement to a complete and total non-parental involvement, and there's no transition.
Well, I'm going to tell you, if I'm paying for my kid's education.
Well, you say that, but you keep fighting and finally you quit fighting.
Well, here's the problem. Hey, but listen, Caroline. Here's what they're saying. The institution, even if you ask for the information, is not obligated to give it to you. Right. Right. Right.
And then after that, you can come off of it, but that's expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you go from being able to supervise your kids' grades and know what they're doing to an institution that says, "Hey, we do not give you their grades."
Online, they don't have them online.
Mm-mm.
But you gotta have a
You gotta
number to
have
get
their
in.
code to get in it. It's completely up to the student whether to get it.
Yeah,
And why does your child do it?
because she's hard-headed as me, I guess.
Eventually, we got her transcript because it was like, you're either gonna send the transcript or you're done, you know, so.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
paid
but-
for putting the money on the gas card and the whatever card. That card be stopped.
Well, she didn't have any of that. We paid her insurance, and we paid her tuition, and we paid her books and housing, and then she paid for food and gas.
You don't know what to do.
Well, you get into it, and it's tough because the institution treats them as adults in society. And so what they say is we do not have to give you, the parent, information that is considered by society private. And they don't. Now, you can tell your child, hey, you giving me that code day one. That might be an agreement that works out for y'all. But a lot of parents, listen to me, y'all, a lot of parents don't even know that this is a reality. A lot of parents don't, I mean, were y'all honestly prepared for the lack of, I mean, you know, hey, here's what the school wants. We want your money, but you can't have any information.
Yeah, went to all that 2-day orientation.
They don't tell you. So for those of you that are have kids headed towards higher education, just remember, if you want to stay involved in the day-to-day comings and goings of your child with regards to their grades, you're going to have to make arrangements for that up front. In the very beginning, get that information, or it's like you're locked out. Yeah. Right.
I mean, you know, you try to teach your kids in the course that we took here a long time ago to where your kids are either winged or rooted.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you know, that's the way it was called.
Yeah.
You want to teach them to be winged so they can
Right.
go out on their own. Well, anyway, and we tried that. We did do that.
Right.
And well, Kelsey she grew pretty big wings.
She flew out of the nest, didn't she? Yeah.
She did graduate.
Well, and see, and listen, here's what I want y'all to understand, and I'm saying this as much for the benefit of people because, you know, you get a different feel for it if it's on video than if you're in the class. We're not at all criticizing each other's kids. We're not. We're talking through legitimate issues relating to college and the fact that it is what it is. It is college. It's a much different experience. And there's nothing, I don't believe, that prepares you for it. I was not prepared. When I went to school, when I went to USCS, y'all going to love this. When I went to USCS, I didn't want to be there to begin with. So once I got there and I figured out that there's no way to tell if I'm there or not, well, then I quit going. I had a friend who worked second shift at Stouffer's. His name was Todd Holcomb. Todd was a couple years older than me, but when I met Todd, Todd was like in the 7th grade and I was in the 5th grade. So I had spent the night at Todd's house for years. I almost had a key. If they'd kept their doors locked, I would have had a key to the house, but they didn't keep their doors locked. So once I figured out, by the 3rd week of my first semester at Spartanburg Methodist, I was getting up on 125 Holland Street, driving over next to Limestone College to Russell Street, going in Todd's house, crawling back into bed and sleeping until Todd woke up. And then me and him would go get something to eat. We'd go to the video store and we'd watch movies until he had to go to second shift work at Stouffer's and it was time for me to go to work at Bell's. And my parents didn't have a clue what was going on. And I was just wasting time and wasting Uncle Luke's money. So, you know, these are real things. And if you don't know that that's a possibility, you can say my kid wouldn't, but your kid will. Your kid will.
The majority of students that enter college will change their major after the first year.
Isn't that the average?
So you have to also tack in that there's a possibility that they'll go more.
Longer, yeah, yeah.
Most of them don't figure out.
Well, most of them don't know. Yeah, yeah,
Pick something, but they don't.
I mean, luckily Kelsey transferred within something that she could
Right.
apply what she'd already taken, but that's not always the case.
I've got one that, the oldest one, I can't figure out. I mean, he's just, sometimes you poke him, see if he's breathing. I just keep saying, Nick, now, you know, if you gonna graduate, and you going somewhere, it's either up to work somewhere, or you join something. It's gonna be services, it's gonna be something, but we can't, you know, we gotta have some, you know. Yeah, I mean, if you gonna live here, you paying some rent.
right, yeah,
We're gonna have to teach you some principles.
right.
And he looks at me kinda,
Like it's 30 years away. I mean,
Well, kids don't have any concept of time, y'all. Kids don't have any concept of time.
I don't know how to tell you. I know, I guess he looks intelligent because he's clean and he's got clothes on, but, and he's smart, they say, and he makes decent money. But, I mean, I'm telling you, the child acts like it's not ever coming.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Everybody that we've talked to so far in the room has sort of had kids that followed a similar track. Kids did go to college, but lost scholarships, squandered time, squandered money, squandered grades. Whether they finished or not, got on track. Look, I got back on track. But initially squandered it. But, Mike, you've got a high school graduate who had no interest in continuing education. How did y'all handle that? How did y'all handle that option? Because here's what I'm saying to y'all as an option, folks. If your kids don't want to go out of high school, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. But how did you handle that? What discussions did y'all have?
I thought I was looking in a mirror when I was hearing Caroline talk there about
You
this,
just looked at
because
him like, what is going on?
Cameron, same thing. You got to poke him to see if he's breathing, because it's hard to get the word out of him. And we finally, I mean, I've had those conversations with him. You know, what I keep telling him, he has no interest in school right now, and he did qualify for a scholarship. He's like, so what? I don't want to go. You know, I've been in school for 13 years. I'm ready to just think about this for a while. I've had the conversation of, I can't make you go to school. I can't make you to get a degree. But the reality is, you can do the same job as somebody that doesn't have it, and that guy that has the degree is going to make more money.
Right.
So it's kind of, common sense tells you need that. You know,
Right.
You should want that for yourself. Well, that's not working with him. So the next conversation is, and he feels like he's got a long way before he has to make a next step. But the next step is, okay, you're either gonna, as long as you're going to school, you can stay at my house, you know, and I'll feed you and I'll clothe you best I can. But if you're not gonna choose that path, we're gonna have to start talking about what kind of rent you're gonna be paying for this thing.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and that conversation was just him staring off into, you know, and do you agree what I'm saying, Cameron? Do you understand? And I'm not trying to be hateful. Like, I can hear you saying none of my friends have to pay rent, and I'm thinking, yeah, but somehow I gotta get you to the next step. You know?
Right. Yeah.
You're gonna be on your own at some point. You're gonna have to pay rent at some point. You're gonna have to provide
But
for
you said
yourself.
that their parents don't love them enough to want to prepare them to be productive adults, to
Right.
be able to take care of a family one day. I mean, that's.
But he's been really good, because he got a job and he was making good money. Well, he's learning a lesson right now that is also a valuable lesson. That when you get laid off, you know, he got laid off at a good time, but that's a reality that he's got to, you know, everything's going good, and all of a sudden, whoa, now I don't have a check coming in.
Yeah.
So.
And see, here are those doses of reality. Like, I mean, this is what drives me and Paula absolutely insane with Logan. I went to college, out of high school, flunked out, chose to go back later. Logan has a nephew who dropped out of high school, did nothing. I mean, this is the kid who went to Wyoming to be a rock star. Okay. Yeah, apparently. Then joined the United States Army. Within a week of turning 21, got a DUI on base, and was immediately sent back to Iraq for his second tour of duty with the United States Army in a war zone. Then went with KBR, civilian contracting, after he got out of the Army, went back to Iraq for his third stint, and is now 27 years old, married with a kid, and guess where he is? College. And you know what? He's doing great. He's doing great. The family is so proud of him. But there's two examples in Logan's bloodline, and Logan says, I ain't never going to college. And I'm like, Logan, at least say, I'm not going now. I might go, I ain't never going to college. Let me just tell y'all something. Let me tell y'all how Logan's wired. This is when Logan, me and Paula had this conversation, this is when Logan's going to go to college or do something. The day that Logan has been working his tail off for 8 or 9 years, and some college graduate walks in and says, you're doing it wrong, That's when Logan's gonna, to use a term I learned in the construction field, he's gonna drag up and go back to college, because that just ain't gonna fit into Logan's formula for life.
Well, yeah, I asked Joe, because that's come out work with Joe, I said, because, you know, Braden and them kids, me and Joe said, "Y'all quit preaching to me." Because I'll say, y'all boys are y'all are smart, y'all need to, you know, just, you know, go to college just to have something to fall back on. He said, "You're like a mother, just shut up." Say nothing else to him. So Joe kind of talks to him, and what did you say about Logan? He kind of has a plan, you think, or you were talking.
Yeah. Well, at 16, you're as smart as you'll ever be.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know it all.
Yeah.
And your mom and
Yeah.
dad dumb as dirt.
And they're
Yeah.
the dumbest people you've ever met.
Right.
That's in 10 years that flips.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, when you're 23, Eddie starts looking a lot smarter than
He
you
does,
used to.
don't he?
Yeah.
You think, man, you're always this smart. Yeah. You just get there.
Man, I can't wait till I was 23.
It takes a while. It takes a while. But,
Well,
you'll figure it out.
Danny, y'all are what, a year and a half away with Braden? What's he looking towards?
I think he's probably at least going to stay close and do Spartanburg Tech, Criminal Tech, you know, at the most, I say. And you know, he may work a year or two. I hadn't said much because I went straight out of high school, through college, you know, and I'm like Cameron. I hated school for 12 years, and I went back for 6 more.
Yeah.
I still don't understand it. But I'm just kind of let Braden. It wouldn't surprise me that he did not go, but I also know he needs to work. Braden needs. I mean, I needed to work. I needed to know what it felt like, and I think that's why it works to let kids, if they will work a couple of years and then go, because after you toil and work for 10 or 12 hours a day, 6 days a week for not very good money, sitting back in college begins to look a lot more friendly.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just tell you this, and I don't have time to go into all the details because I want to jump to the last 2 families in the room. Paul and Logan had a conversation the other day, and Logan and one of his buddies had the grand scheme of low rent roommate after high school. And Paula said, well, let's just look at this, you know, realistically. And she said, you know how much your rent's going to be? How much do you expect to make? And by the time Logan worked through all the numbers, Logan realized, you know what, he would be losing money to spend that first 12 months out of high school being a roommate, even at low rent, as opposed to staying at mom and dad's with no rent. So he's at least adjusted his 12-month plan out of high school to include staying at home and letting mama develop him a budget and a savings plan, because right now, and he turned 17 in December, 16, they're going to, you know, well, a year ago, y'all know he was going to be a civilian contractor. Well, now he's going to be an underwater welder. And he, and well, somebody told him sharks would get him. but now he's going to be a underwater welder, and he's got his eye on a school in Charleston. But y'all, he's 16.
He doesn't know nothing.
He's 16. I'll be perfectly honest with you. If Logan ends up working a career at BMW, it's not going to surprise me. I don't care if it's my child, your child, or you. I don't put any stock in anything a 16-year-old says. I mean, you just can't. You just can't. How far away is Lindsay? 4 or 5 years. What's y'all's 5-year plan for post-high school education?
She said she was just gonna go, she said talking about USC Upstate.
Okay.
It's got softball and it's nursing.
Okay.
But now, when she watches the World Series and the college things, she's looked at those schools that show up at that. So now, and of course Tawana talked to her at the youth thing the other day, so now her goal is to go to Georgia.
Okay.
So when that happens, you won't see us anymore because we'll be enjoying it.
Lisa probably could probably do it too. She's a girl.
Debbie, you have 3 young men that are at least 10 years away from college. What's y'all's 10-year plan to getting them to higher education? Well, this is why we're having this Sunday school class. Those of us, well, me and Danny, we might be the closest to, no, Lexi graduates before Logan does. And Noah graduates. So these are the 2 closest, and me and Danny. What we can all tell you, and they can from double experience, that 10 years is going to close real quick. And if you don't have a plan, you'll just, things will fall into place, but it just won't, it'll just happen. So I encourage you.
Can never say enough.
Yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
One thing I can say with our 2 oldest ones is, of course, I guess from what I was growing up in versus nowadays, we kind of changed the roles a little bit where we were strict, but then not as strict. They kind of did what they wanted to. But now we did do the rent thing. They did work.
Right.
Did school. And of course, they kind of talked about going to college, but then of course when it got down to the time, no. But now the only good thing I can say for both of those is they went straight into a good job after high school.
By the way, thank Nathan for his contribution, his success in life, to Logan's contribution in figuring out the big picture. Logan came home. What did he go over there and help let Nathan do? He went over there and did something for Nathan. I don't know if he hauled something off or I don't know. But anyway, he came home and he was like, dude, Nathan didn't go to college. And he told me how much Nathan made an hour and how much they bought the house for and how much his truck retails for. And his wife's got a good job and all this. I was like, thank you, Nathan. thank you for being successful, young man.
Now he did try to go to school, but with his hours at work, he couldn't do school.
Right,
So he
yeah.
had to wait on that.
The reality to what you were talking about with Logan, you're gonna go out and get a job and then a college degree, come in and tell him he's not doing it right. The reality's there. I was 17, 18, I'll make this brief.
I've seen it.
An old fire chief tell me, because I was dead set on being a fireman for a while, but I was, he told me, son, you need to quit worrying about fighting fire, go to college, come back, you can teach for the academy and make a lot more money. This was when I lived in Georgia. Yeah, okay, old man. You don't got a clue what you talking about. I got out of school as quick as I could, and I was bent to go be fireman. That took a little bit. I've become no college whatsoever. I've become fireman, and I've been passed up twice on a promotion. Even though my field skills, the on-the-job training is there, because I don't have a piece of paper, I've been passed up twice.
That's right. Folks, and every adult in this room can echo that, but if you've got a 16-year-old that just can't process it, they look at you like, you're going to give them 26. That's why I say, Logan's temperament, he's just not going to survive in a world where he gets passed over or gets told what to do by somebody that just come in with a piece of paper. And that will either force him to be self-employed or he will then go back and get his education. Well, I agree, but, he's 16 and he knows it all. And by the way, thank you, Greg, for your contribution to my son's future. My son's greatest goal in life is to have a Patrick. And by the way, now that Noah has Rodriguez, or Noah has Pablo. So Logan's really on the Greg and